Red Book, it said that if you had 600 METs, past clients and sphere, in your database, the conversion rate to business was 2 deals for every 12, meaning 1 in 12 would buy or sell with you again, and 1 in 12 would refer you to someone outside of your database. But that means your 600 MET database would turn out 100 transactions a year. About half would be active database people themselves, and the other half would be referrals. Guess what the number is in MREA2 research? It's down from 100 units to 60. It's gone from 1 in 6 to 1 in 10 or worse. Now, where's the fall off been? The fall off's been due mainly to the web. And I'm going to use a different word because it is more than the web. It is the web, but it's also HomeLight, which used to advertise on TV. They'll help you find a great agent. And now all of a sudden they're advertising, we'll buy your home too. It is all that noise we talked about in the very beginning. There's more noise with consumers of real estate than ever. And you have to simply make more noise. You have to be in more communication. In other words, you have to make more contacts with people, or you will continue to suffer loss of opportunity in your MET database. This is all about service, ladies and gentlemen. Myth 3, selling is telling. No, it's not. If I just watched you go on a listing appointment and I saw you sitting there with the seller and your mouth is going, wah, 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 and the seller goes, wah, wah, and then you go, wah, 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 you need to shut up. You need to just stop it. You're doing it backwards. You need to ask questions and then listen to the answers. Ideally, at a seller listing appointment, you get the seller to self-discover through talking what they need to do. If you put the right tools in front of them in the pre-listing package and you bring the right presentation at the table, it's Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, this 12-month trend line in listings in your neighborhood, how do you interpret this? Now you got to find out, are they motivated or are they in denial of reality? You know, what is it that they're doing? This truth is a huge truth. Ask the right questions and then listen. Listen. Myth 4, winging a presentation is more natural than using scripts. Really? Seriously? I remember going on my first listing appointment, my very first one. And I'm talking to all of you, not just newbies, because most of you don't do enough listing appointments. But I remember going up to ring the doorbell. I started my career, my wife and I went into real estate together in Miami, Florida. And I was going on an appointment, those of you who know Miami, Florida, in Coral Gables, a ritzy, old school kind of neighborhood in Miami. And it was my first appointment, and it was a FSBO. And I was ringing the doorbell. And I was ringing that doorbell, sweat was running down the back of my neck. My stomach was in knots. And I remember thinking, he's going to ask me a question. 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 And I was scared to death I wouldn't have answers for questions that he had. Now, let me tell you what. This is every one of you. You should go out and know what are the 6 to 10 questions you're most likely to get. And you need to know 2 or 3 scripts for each one of those. And that's it. If you do that, you'll be well prepared. Because what is natural is being prepared. What is natural is I know what I'm going to answer to 6 or 10 questions. I'm ready. I got my answers, and I'm comfortable. When you don't know what you're going to say, you will be uncomfortable, and that is unnatural. You shouldn't walk into these appointments tense and afraid or nervous. You should walk in excited and full of energy because you're going to love the outcome, and you know it. And that is scripts. So do scripts and role playing to win and be natural. Myth 5, you have to buy the listing by padding the price. Well, some of you are padding the price, and then the buyers throw even more padding on the price. So it's a crazy time, but the truth is you want to get really good at accurate pricing, and accurate means typically it not only will sell for the most, but it will also appraise. And some people are getting offers on stuff that won't appraise. So accurate pricing is important. Myth 6, I only need to know the stats from my farm. That is not true. We are in the age of information. Every buyer and every seller, all of them, when they decide they're going to move, whether they take a buyer orientation or a seller orientation to the market, and those are the only two approaches, they will get on the internet. You know what, honey, after dinner, since we've decided to move, let's get on the internet and let's see what we think we can get for our house. Let's just kind of see what things are selling for in the neighborhood. Or let's get on the internet after dinner and see what we can buy. Let's look around in those neighborhoods we like and see what's out there for sale. They orient to one of those two when they move. And remember, 40 to 60% need to sell in order to buy. So they'll approach it one way or another. Now here's the point. They're gathering data. They are looking at 52 pictures on every listing in their neighborhood. They are watching the videos. They are looking at the sold properties. You walk in the door and you don't know what's going on, you're toast. They won't say anything to you. They'll just listen to you rattle off stuff that's not accurate. You'll talk about listings that sold down the street, and the way you talk about it, they'll know you don't know that property. And they may have even been in that house. It might even be their friend's house. You cannot walk in ignorant. It's fatal. It's fatal. And you do need to know how this all ties together. The current housing situation is driven by a lot of factors that are not local. Interest rates are not local. Lack of new construction is a global issue. It could be local too, but it is a bigger issue than just your own backyard. And everybody's watching videos and reading about all of the market area issues in the entire nation. And they're watching. Myth 7, I can't do it. No, be quiet. All it takes is commitment and practice. And KW, you got all the help you need. And I believe that's absolutely true. Now, what it does take is something simple. It says commitment and practice. I think that's lovely, and I think that's accurate. But I think there's a just basic word for that, and it's work. It takes work. A lot of you need to build a pre-list package because you know about it and you still haven't done it. Or a lot of you need to revisit your pre-list package after we look at one today and rebuild it. It's going to be scripts and role play. That's work. It's going to be research on market data. That is work. And some of you are going to have to make sure to stop wasting any time at all because you don't have time to waste. This is a massive wave that is rolling over our industry, and it's either going to crush you or you can ride it. And you're going to make up your mind, and it'll show up in the work that you do. Now, here's some basics about sellers to always keep in mind. Sellers, and buyers are doing what they're doing for emotional reasons. They buy and sell because of emotional reasons. Remember that. It's not practical. It's not logical. It's emotional. There is logic involved, but ultimately it is pure emotion. They'll hire who they trust, so you must show care and concern for them. And you got to do it right out of the gate. When I say sellers have emotional reasons to sell, truly motivated sellers are moving because of life events. We have another child coming. We have our baby leaving the home now. We got a big old house and the baby left. This is my wife and I. When our baby left the house for college 2 years earlier, we started thinking about downsizing out of our house. While he was still in the house, while he was a junior, we started talking about getting rid of the house. Now, this is you. Do you have a true database? Do you have a true database? If you do, it's full of data. And if you have the right data, you literally can start to predict a lot of housing moves your people are likely to make. They won't all follow the track, but a lot of people are more predictable than they realize about their housing moves. People that have 2 kids or more under the age of 5 are going to move twice between K and 12. Between K and 12, twice. They can move at K and at middle, K and high, middle and high, but they're going to move twice between K and 12. This is all census data stuff. People that are having a baby, 30% will move within 1 year of the birth. 1/3 are going to move within 1 year of the birth. And some do it before the move, and some do it after the move. After the baby. But they'll do it within 1 year of the baby. My oldest daughter is a great example of this. My oldest daughter graduated from Columbia with her PhD in art history. She interned at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, one of the 5 great art museums in the world, and they hired her and wanted her after she got her PhD. So she's working at the Met in a dream job, considering her career path. A dream job, literally. And her husband, Wall Street lawyer, he had a dozen lawyers working under him. He had a highly successful career on Wall Street. And I'll never forget this. It was three and a half years ago. We were up there, 3.5 almost. We were up there at our ski house, and we were skiing for the Christmas holidays. And she and her husband looked at us and said, "Mom and Dad, we've decided to start a family." Touchdown! Woo! Yeah, baby. They decided to start a family. And they said, "But here's the deal. We've decided we want to have our kids brought up the way we were brought up, meaning a house with a nice backyard for parties, for the little blow-up swimming pool, for playing ball in the backyard, all that stuff, barbecues, parties. We can't do it in Manhattan. We don't have any yard at all, and there's not much room, and it's all really expensive. So guess what? We're giving up our careers where they are, and we're moving." And they did. Now you need to hear that. She gave up a dream job, and he gave up a dream job, and they both started over in a different city so that they could start a family the way they envisioned their family life being. This is why people move. Births, deaths, divorce, job loss, job creation, all of this is draped with emotion. This hire who they trust, and you must show care and concern. Here is the most powerful way for you to show care and concern right out of the gate. "Yeah, I need to sell my house. I got your name from Bob at work." Wonderful. Hold on a minute. I need to pull up a form and ask you some questions. Asking questions shows care and concern for their situation. So why are you selling exactly? And when do you need to move by? And what will happen if that doesn't occur? If you don't hit that deadline, tell me what's going to happen. "Oh, we can't miss the deadline." They'll tell you that. Now, when you show up at the appointment, you do your niceties in the foyer. You connect with them about talking about commonalities, kids, sports, whatever. You see clues when you walk in that house, or you've already checked them out if you're really smart. You've done a full Google search on every seller. You've seen what they're saying on Facebook. You've seen what they're posting on Facebook. You see if they do anything else. If they play tennis, if they've got kids. You see a lot about them. So you already know how to walk in the door and connect. You should know how to connect. But once you sit down, here's how you show care and concern. "Mr. and Ms. Johnson, I have a lot of care and concern about getting things right for you guys. So with your permission, I would like to take notes while we talk. Is that okay with you? Is that okay, Bob? Can I do it?" "Well, sure, of course, Gene. Go ahead, sure." Now, you need to take notes, and you need to stop them occasionally. "Just a minute, I want to make sure I got that right. Sure, I get this right." So you're selling this home to get Johnny into a different school zone because that school has the finest music program in the city, and your son is musically gifted. And we have to be fully closed and you're in the home by July 31 because you have to be living in that school zone by August 1st. So do I have that exactly right? Now, when you do that, when you ask them questions and write the answers down and repeat them back to them, there is no better way for you to make them feel you have care and concern for them. If you're listening to people answer questions and writing nothing down, you're deliberately saying to them, it don't matter what you're saying. It doesn't matter because you're not taking notes. So start taking notes, and this becomes data for better customer service. By some definition, they must win. That example I gave you, if Bob gets an offer that doesn't entirely thrill him, well, Bob, this is the script, by the way. Bob, did you call me up to sell this house in order to make money? Or did you call me to sell this house so Johnny could get into a different school zone and have a better future? Which one was it? Well, it was about school zone, but I still, this money thing is not quite right. I appreciate that, Bob. But I'm sure you and I will both agree, life is never a perfect scenario. But here's the deal. If you sign this offer as it is, you win. You win. Johnny's going into school. This buyer is cash. This buyer is pre-approved. If they're getting a loan, whatever the quality of the offer is, this is a done deal. If you sign it, you win, Bob. If you change that price or change anything, this offer is gone, and now you're making an offer to the buyer. Your risk is if that buyer has another offer outstanding on another property, or they have a strong number two, you'll make them rethink it, and you literally can lose them. You could. So think carefully, Bob. The win is you sign it. The risk is you don't sign it. You counter it. That's a script. Money gets them off goal. Money gets everybody off goal. Money. They all act like they're rolling in hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. They're not. The only money they put into a deal when they buy the house is the down payment, most everybody. And the only thing they get is what's left over after paying off the bank, which has most of the money in the deal. Money gets them off goal, and you need strategies to deal with that. They have a time frame. If they are truly motivated, they have a time frame. The definition of motivation is people deal with reality. People deal with reality. And that's always going to be about a time frame. And then you're there to tell the truth. Don't ever forget that. If you feel if I tell the truth, I'm not going to get the listing, do not give up your integrity. Don't lie to people because you want to make money. When you start doing that, you have corrupted your own integrity. Don't do things for money. Do things to help people and do things that are about the truth. Tell the truth to people. And if they want to go with somebody else who said more money and you said that's not possible, it's not going to happen, you may get it on the rebound. And that's happened to me a bunch. They'll call you up after 3 months or 6 months, say, Mr. Rivers, I want to talk to you again. You were right. I go, oh, okay, good. It's not that I want to be right, but I want to be known for telling the truth. So here's some stats that you really need to be aware of. 45% in some parts of the country, this varies around the nation, but some parts of the country, 45% of sellers are 5 years or less in the home when they sell. In other words, some people are very mobile. My wife and I moved 3 times in 7 years. 3 times in 7 years. And 2 of those were new construction. Over the last 10 years, basically everybody's using a realtor. Look at that third one. 75% of sellers call one agent. You have to get the call. This doesn't mean they're going to say to you, come on over and get it. It's yours. It's your listing. No, they'll say, we're selling our home and we're interviewing a couple of agents. We'd like to talk to you. Now, who would you call first? The agent you don't think you're going to hire or the agent you think you're going to hire? They typically will make one call, and then your job is to show up and meet or exceed their expectation. Meet or exceed their expectation. And if you do that, you get the listing. If you're an experienced agent or a new agent and you go to an appointment and the seller says, well, we told you we were interviewing, so we'll be back in touch. Thank you for coming over tonight. What you should hear is, Mr. Rivers, you failed to meet or exceed our expectation, so we're going to keep looking. That's what you should hear. Now, what's the best way for you to set the expectation and exceed it? What's the best way? The pre-listing package. The pre-listing package is a tool where you exceed expectation and your reaction at first contact. What do you do when you get that call? Yeah, we're thinking about selling our house. We got your name from Bob at work. What do you do that first day when they first contacted you that would exceed their expectation? We'll talk more about that, but I can tell you right now what we do is we deliver that famous pre-listing package within 30 minutes of the phone call to their office. And I want it in their hands, and I wanted them to sign a receipt for it. I want them to have a visceral experience of our service, meaning I want it tangible. I don't want to do an email. I might send an email also, but I want to deliver something in their hands from us within 30 minutes of the phone call. And now I guarantee you that exceeded their expectation. And that's the game from that point on, is can you keep exceeding their expectations?
I don't want it.
Yeah, look, I'll show you. It's
It's that COVID thing with parents and kids at home.
Please.
Just tell that kid to eat it. Okay, 62%. 62%, the majority of sellers, what do they want? They want you to get it sold on time. And that's more important than the money. The money was number 3 or number 4. But the most important things to a seller is get it sold on time. Number 1 is get it sold. And number 2 is on time. Focus on that. 72% will consider using the same agent again, and yet it's only 8, 10, 12, 14% that actually do. And that is because of lack of contact, lack of communication, lack of appreciation. The real estate firm is not important to the consumer. It's important to the agent, but it's not important to the consumer. They don't care about the company. They care about you and your value prop. And FSBOs who sell themselves, FSBOs who get it done, who sell themselves, only 30% of them would do it again. So what does that tell us? That most FSBOs are not having a good time. That they are not thrilled to death. So why do sellers call you? Now this is Gary's top group. This is the top 100. So this is what top agents look like. About 29% are past clients. 22% are referrals. That's over half. And I can tell you for a fact that was my experience. About half of my business was past client repeat and referral. Past client repeat and referral. The reputation as a top agent. Now this is your brand building. So look at this. We have almost 70% for top agents. Their business comes from the service they gave past clients, the educating and asking for referrals and referral reward programs, and brand building to strangers that they don't know. That's 70% of their business. So the rest matter, but they're single digits. Advertising and direct mail, signs in the neighborhood, the company reputation. As a separate category, the web and relocation. Both of those can have an extremely high cost of sale. Extremely high. Command was built to solve the problem with the web, to solve the expense problem of buying leads from Zillow or Trulia or Realtor.comio or RRC or wherever. 25, 30, 40, 45% referral fees will kill you. However, there is business there. And if you're going to do relocation, you need to join the ERC. If you want corporate relocation, you need to join the Employee Relocation Council. You need to take their training and get their designation. And then that puts you in the online resource tool, the roster, where human resource directors and third-party companies go to find agents that they're going to use. If you don't know the policies of corporate relocation and the paperwork, they don't want to work with you. So they typically hire people that are trained by the ERC and get the designation. So how do we get business? How do we get sellers? Well, we get them the same way all businesses get business. It's past client repeat and referral. That's always where you start. That's always where you go. We're going to talk about this in more depth. And then if you want new business, you only have 2 paths. It's prospecting or marketing. If you want strangers to do business with you, you go find them or you market to them so they have found and will reach out to you. It's 1 to 2, and we'll talk about those. Again, this is Gary's group. Most effective lead sources for them: word of mouth, yard signs, farming mail, websites, target mail. Now, these are accumulated pots, so some of them don't do any open houses. Some of them don't do farming mail, but the point is these are accumulated numbers over the top producers. Notice word of mouth. The reality today is you don't wait for them to call you. You have to call them. You have to be on the phone, on the text, on the messaging. You have to be communicating with them more than you've ever done. There's too much noise to do it any other way. If you're going to be really successful, this is what it looks like. You need to daily prospect for sellable listings. I see a lot of people in my offices taking anything they can get their hands on. You got to be very careful about that. Remember what we talked about at the beginning. The listings you take create opportunities with buyers and opportunities with neighbors, sellers, future sellers. We had an agent in our office who was new, and he was talented, and he was really aggressive, and he went around and talked to agents in the office and said, hey, if you get an opportunity, you don't want it, if it's too small, too cheap, whatever, I'll take it. Just help me out. Give me something. I'm hungry and I'm ready to work. So somebody gave him a mobile home on 2 acres, 15 miles out of town. And he took it. So he got sign calls. And who were the sign calls? People who wanted a trailer 15 miles out of town. And he ended up selling that trailer 15 miles out of town to another agent who had a buyer through the MLS. But he had buyers then that he was working with that wanted trailers. And a neighbor saw he sold it and called him, so he got another trailer listing. 6 months into the business, he wanted to talk to me. I said, what's up, buddy? And he said, I don't know what to do. I've got nothing but trailer business. I've got 3 listed trailers. I got trailer buyers. I don't want to be doing trailers. And I said to him, well, this is easy. Number one, you are not going to take any more trailer listings at all, because if you do, you're going to keep in the trailer business. So you're going to stop that. You're going to refer them out. And now you know why everybody gave you the trailers. Now, this is you. Just because you can get a $180,000 listing, if your average current price is $350,000, don't just chase something to chase it. Focus on the market that you want, not the market that you have. Generally speaking, you want to get to the 3rd quartile by volume in any market. And we'll talk more about that when we talk about farming. So, right now, today, going forward, if you're a single agent or even a team and your seller base, and your buyer base, meaning more than half of your business is closed buyers, you need to focus on the seller appointment as a weekly activity. Minimum for a single agent is 1 a week. The math, the research we have on this is crystal clear. And it was MREA 1, and then 18 years later, research started for MREA 2, and both research projects say the same thing about this. The relationship between appointments and closed sales is 2 to 1. So if I go on 1 appointment a week for the month, I went on 4 appointments, you will take 3 listings and you will have 2 closings. That's the research. It's very simple. The issue is, can you have 1 appointment a week with a seller every week? You have to make that happen if you're going to be seller-based. Now, larger teams, when I was a listing agent, my goal was 10 appointments a week. 10. 2 a day. 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon, 5 days a week. 10 appointments was my goal every week. But the point is, I'm just like a single agent. You have an appointment goal for sellers every week, and the lowest number for anybody is 1, if you're serious about it. Focus on target market. Some of you, what you're doing, what you've been doing, has gotten you more buyers than sellers. And you're going to have to ask yourself, okay, what am I doing that I need to keep doing? In other words, what are you doing that's getting you sellers? And you got to make sure you keep doing that, because it is getting you some business. And a lot of you will just be sphere. And then you got to ask yourself, what am I doing that's not working for me? I'm not getting any sellers out of it at all. If all you get is buyers out of it, you probably need to stop it. Just stop it. Or stop the way you do it. In other words, you might be doing open houses, but all you ever get is buyers. You need to change the way you do opens, because if you do them right, you can get seller appointments. No question about it. And then you got to ask yourself, and what am I not doing that I need to start doing? And that might be this. A lot of you are going to need to pick from today's list. We're going to go over 10 seller resources. You need to add a listing resource and pound it. And take that listing source and pound it. When I say pound it, I mean do it like nobody else does it. Be the best at it. Be the absolute best at it. And then it'll work, and it'll work well for you. And then you got to have systems. Systems are about uniform customer experience. Systems are about dependable, regular production you can count on. Systems are about scalability. So if you're in a growth mode, if you're trying to grow your business and you're hitting this wall of, I got a whole bunch of buyers and not enough contracts are going through, you got to get around that wall, under that wall, or over that wall. And you do it by changing what you're doing and shifting. And systems, once you have systems, you can scale them. Until you have systems, you will not be able to scale. You can do business, but it'll be uneven and it'll be irregular because it's not systematic. To be successful, you want to collect data. I've already talked about this. This is really important because I believe probably all of you are in this long term. You're in this as a career, or you probably wouldn't be taking training. You'd just be doing whatever you do. And if you're in this long term, it is about collecting data and then mining that data. The acronym for data that I was taught is the one I'm showing you, FORD. The data is around their family, it is around their occupation, it's around their recreation, and around their dreams. And when that dream pops up, that's about the dream house. You should know what house does everybody in your Met database ultimately want to own. If you don't know that, how can you deliver the highest level of service? How can you deliver to them what they're dreaming about if you don't know what it is? Some people want to have a high rise with a killer view in a metro downtown. Some want to be out in the country on 5 acres of land. Some want a fixer-upper, Victorian, that they do themselves. Some of them want brand new construction. You got to know what it is. And when you know, then you put them on a drip anytime you list what would be their dream home. We had a buyer once who was referred to us, and he wanted to buy a property out of town on 3 acres. I remember it was so crazy the way he said it, because I talked to him. I want 3 acres of land, flat, no trees, out of town. And I said, okay, and what's the point here? He said, well, we have one child, she's my daughter, and I love golf, so she's learned to play golf. I've taught her golf, and she's really good. And I need a place where it's big enough that I can do a putting green for her so she can practice, and a sand trap so she can practice her wedge shots. I want to do this for my daughter so she can do really well. At the time I met him, she was in middle school playing on the high school golf team. She was really good. So I talked to him about, well, so what's y'all's dream home? Let me guess, golf course? He said, oh yeah, we want a home one day on the golf course. So I put him on the drip. Anytime we listed a golf course frontage property, he got it in the email, and the subject line was thinking about you. So he saw my name, and he saw the subject line was thinking about you, and he opened it, and there was a golf course house. We got a listing with a builder on a new construction home on the 17th hole in Summerbrook Golf Course. He'd lived in the home. We'd sold him 2 years, and he called me. And he said, I want to talk to you about this house. I said, really? Really? He said, yep. I know it doesn't make sense. We've only been living in this one 2 years, but there are only going to be limited opportunities on new golf course construction. And I really like to look at this floor plan. I want to meet you on the lot and talk about it. And it was being framed up. We walked through it. Boom. He bought it. We listed and sold his house. The total aggregate deal was about $800,000. And that happened because I collected the data and mined it. I mined the data. Okay. We built a new construction house for the lieutenant governor of Florida. I live in the state capital, Tallahassee. And because I have occupation data, the governor gave us a testimonial that we could use, the lieutenant governor. So we pushed one button, and anyone who works in state government got the testimonial from the lieutenant governor. And within 30 days, we had 3 transactions because of pushing that button. And most of those people that called us said some variation of, hey, the lieutenant governor says you're the one, then you're the one for me too. You need to sell my house. And that's exactly the way it worked. And that's called data mining. Okay, and then work volume ideas, predictive analytics, and telemarketing. This is today. You need to be utilizing data. Command is going to continue to evolve and increase its ability through AI to help you use your data. But if you don't have the data, the AI can't help you. It's going to learn what happens when people have 2 kids or more under the age of 5. AI, Kelly is going to learn what most consumers will do, and she'll prompt you if the ages are in there about when to do it. And then telemarketing. Now, telemarketing is texting. Telemarketing is on the phone. Telemarketing is PM messaging. Telemarketing is simply using technology to communicate with people. And it can be just a marketing push, or it can be a 2-way conversation. But you're going to have to do more of it than you've ever done because there's too much noise. Consumers are getting so much pushed on them that own real estate. I mean, I'm getting it. I get tremendous amounts of push on me. Every week I'm getting somebody messaging me about my rental properties. Have you considered selling your property? I mean, I'm getting this stuff like crazy. Okay, here's a whole bunch of lead gen sources. The ones all on the left are all about sellers. This is right out of Lead Generation 3612.3. It's right out of the Red Book. It's right out of the Business Planning Clinic. But I've just moved it around so that on the left are all sellers and on the right are everything else. We're going to talk about what's on the left for the most part today. So sourcing sellers is about this. Today is about this. We're going to talk about Sphere. We're going to talk about past clients who will be treated like Sphere except for the first year. So we're going to talk about what to do with them in the first year, these people who've had a closing with you. We're definitely going to talk about the web and social media. We're going to talk about FSBOs. We're going to talk about expireds. We're going to talk about circle prospecting. I put a star around that. This is what a lot of you need to be doing is circle prospecting. I would tell some of you you need to do geographic farming as well. Just listed your soul cards. It's 2 separate cards. I'm putting them together, but they each have their own modality, the way you use it. We're going to talk about a trade-in program, and that won't be for all of you, but it is the ultimate solution for a lot of your consumers. So some of you need to think about it. I'm going to show you the program. Rebecca and I did it from 1999 till 2006. And when the collapse hit, when houses suddenly weren't worth what was owed on them, and prices were falling, the trade-in program was ceased because it doesn't work in that environment. But I want you to understand it because it solves the problem of someone who needs to sell in order to buy, but is scared to sell because they don't know if they'll get anything to buy. And a lot of you have people like this. And if that's your world, this solves that problem. Open houses, estate and probate attorneys. And when we talk about that, it'll be the same conversation for CPAs, accountants, certified financial planners. There are white-collar professionals who give real estate advice to their clients, and you need to have one or more that give you business. And if you don't, it's probably because you simply haven't come up with a program and then shared your program, how you're going to help them with their clients, to enough of them to get an appointment to actually get the business. And then last is builders. Now, these won't be big builders. This is the small builder, how to get into business with a small builder. Okay, So, we're doing really well. I'm going to stop right now. We're going to do some Q&A and then take a break. So let's see what kind of Q&A we've got lined up. Boom. Young lady, have you been? Ooh,
Myself. Okay, I've unmuted myself. The number one question that I think has been addressed, though, has been about recording. And what I've told everybody is that the region, we are not recording this and sending it out. But you had mentioned that certain sections with scripts that they could record. Is that correct?
Absolutely. I encourage them to. You should just be using your phone and recording the scripts. You're going to get all of the materials. I'm going to show you forms and pre-listing packages and all of that is going to be made available to you.
Okay, great. So here's the questions that I have picked out. How do you go about going back to past clients to collect data you do not get from them when you worked with them in the past?
Well, this is actually pretty easy. Right now, you just go to Facebook, and the majority of consumers have a Facebook page, and their data is splattered all over it. I mean, you ought to be connected with them anyway, but it's bigger than that. I would Google search. If you're literally trying to collect data on people, that's what the web is. It's just a data-rich environment to collect information from. So I would do the Google search. When we get a listing call, the person that takes that inbound call fills out a form and they initiate a sequence of events. And one of them is notifying a virtual assistant that we have full-time that is a listing assistant. They help the listing agent, they help the listing manager, but their job is listing assistant. And they will pull up about 50 to 60 pages of data on every seller, including the house. So we pull up the obvious stuff, the tax records, the past MLS sale, that's the obvious stuff. But we go in deep, we pull up any permits they pulled on the property, we pull up the sale trajectory since the home got constructed, we pull up information about the seller, all that data. And again, for the listing agent, in 24 hours after the call, the listing agent's got 50, 60 pages of information about the house and the seller. And that makes them walk in the door more knowledgeable by far than the seller ever expects the agent to be. And they can use that information wisely. They shouldn't use it unwisely because it starts to feel creepy, right? Like you've been checking me out big time. But you can use that information wisely in the discussion and have a better appointment. So if you're going to call them, then it's not complicated at all. We did that when we moved to Command. We saw Command coming, and we started, quote, cleaning up our database. We have 5,600 past clients and 2,000 Sphere. And we did not want to dump all those into Command without upgrading the data. And the fact is, you need to focus on that Ford acronym, and we called them up, and it was simply this kind of a call. And some of these people we hadn't talked to in years. They've been getting the mail, but we hadn't talked to them in years. It's, hey, it's Gene Rivers, how you doing? Long time no see. Yeah. Well, that's really why I'm calling you. I'm going to change our mail campaign. We're going to use a different tool called Command, and we're going to change what you're getting, and we want to make sure that our data is complete and accurate. So do you have 2 minutes for me to ask you a couple of quick questions? And that's it. And you do that. And nobody seems put off. Nobody is generally anything but positive. It wasn't just me making calls. Most of the calls were made by staff. And the staff were telling us, people say, oh, it's nice to hear from y'all. So if your mindset is, it looks negative that I'm reaching out to you after ignoring you for 3 years, it's actually a positive that you finally reached out. And that's the way most people reacted. It was nice to hear from us.
Well, Gene, I have 2 more questions. The first one is related a little bit to the last one, which is, what do you recommend? Do you have a recommended list of tags to use in Command when you're entering the Ford data?
I mean, that's a complicated question, and it's slightly above my pay grade. I am not the administrator that drives the CRM, so
Yeah.
you're asking me above my grade. I can tell you the tab should be about the family size. The tab should be about the Ford thing, right? How old are the kids? Are there any hobbies? The recreation thing, what are their hobbies? Where do they work? Where, if it's a couple, where do they both work? Where did they work? At least one level deep, not just the current job, but the job before the job. And then the dream thing, dream is about their dream home, but it's also about, have you ever dreamed about investing in real estate? If they're business